Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're in the right place at the right time. Today is Tuesday and it is 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I just want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me on today. We had some scheduling and programming move arounds that we had to do today. So I've got a totally different guest than what I originally started with. We've got a fill-in, lovely young lady, Miss Asadah. She's filling in, and we're going to have a debate today, y'all. I'm just letting y'all know. So go tell somebody that it's going to be a debate on the show today, okay? So you don't want to go nowhere. You need to call somebody, tell them, hey, you better tune in because we're getting ready to talk about some serious stuff. So let me get to my shout out. As always, I like to give a shout out to Dr. Hunt. Dr. Hunt and I have been traveling life together for 30 plus years. And out of the 30 plus years that we have been traveling together, he has been a blessing to both me and my family, as well as I have been a blessing to him and his family. So I encourage you. One of the reasons why I talk about my mentor so much is I encourage you to get a mentor. Mentors have been through this thing called life long enough to be able to help you, encourage you, and keep you on the path of making things happen for yourself. So, as always, get a mentor, and then you can get a show so you can shout your mentor out. I want to invite you guys to go over to my website, ask-dr-ron.com. When you get over there, I want you to take a look around at all of the flyers and all the banners that are on my website, because these are people that support what we are doing here on the show. Without them, we might not be able to do what we do here. So I got a couple of them here that I want to talk about. Surge Synergy. Surge Synergy is helping people understand the solar panel industry. They are offering classes right now for people that can get certified as a solar technician or solar engineers. They got classes where you can become a person that knows how to install solar panels. So I encourage you, get in touch with Surge Synergy, learn a new trade, learn a new skill, get out there so that you can be on this cutting edge thing called solar panels. If you're interested in putting solar panels on your house, they are the people to talk to. They can help you which companies are doing it and doing it right versus companies that are out there just ripping you off. So definitely reach out to Surge Synergy so that you can find out the best way to go when it comes to purchasing solar panels. Port Again Sam. Now, Port Again Sam has been with me for 10 plus years. He brings in some of the best wines and spirits from all over the world. Now, if you're a person that like a good cognac and a cigar, he's the person you're going to want to talk to, because he brings in a cognac that I happen to enjoy that you will not be able to find any place else, okay? You definitely want to give him a call, click on the banner, set up a wine tasting so you can find out what your new favorite wine is, okay? I'm just encouraging you because they have very low inventory on stock right now, so you might want to give him a call so you can find out what he got in so you know how to get your stuff and get enough of it. That's the secret right there. Get enough of it so you won't run out. All right, and last but not least, I want to talk about the Prince Hunter Financial Group. Now, the Prince Hunter Financial Group is helping people understand the stock market and the Forex market. If you're one of those people that were curious, like what's going on in the stock market, how can I make money in the stock market, he is teaching classes. He's teaching you a whole new career. So you want to reach out to the Prince Hunter Financial Group and click on there and make an appointment. They've got a special promotion going on right now where if you mention it that you've seen it on this show, you can get 4 free classes. Out of the 4 free classes, it'll get you on your way to understanding about the stock market and the Forex market. So I encourage you, get that information because it can't go wrong knowing what's going on. And then you'll be on your way to making family financial secure decisions, okay? Like I said before, we have a young lady that's on the show. She's filling in for a guest that was scheduled to be on the show today. And she had something pop up where she was not able to fulfill coming on the show. But she gave me a new guest, someone who's never been on the show before, which I'm so excited to have her on the show today, Miss Asadah. See, I knew I was going to mess it up.
Oh, that's only because you want to mess it up.
Asadah, Miss Asadah.
That's
Welcome
right.
to the show for the first time. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much for having me here.
Well, it is my pleasure. We've been talking on and off all afternoon, and I've
Hmm.
learned a lot about this young lady. So I'm just going to turn it loose and let you tell the people about yourself.
Cool. Well, for those that don't know who I am Asadah. You'll probably pick up from my voice that I got a little New York swagger, little New York twang, but I love Chicago too much and was brought here in the 90s because I went to Northwestern, but then came back in 2014 because this city treats me so well. Lord have mercy. I love it so much.
Oh,
And
wait
so,
a minute now. Hold on.
what? What you what? How you gonna
Nah,
if you
nah,
look, I
nah,
got a
wait a
flow going on,
minute.
here you come.
Wait a
What's
minute. Wait a minute now. You know, anywhere will treat you better than New York. You go to New York, you subject to not get out of there. So you got out of there and be thankful. That's all I can say because New
Well,
York
that's
is
that's
rough.
a perception. New
New
York,
York
once
is
you
rough.
New York can be pretty. New Yorkers don't have a tolerance for slow nothing. And but outside of that, you meet them in the street, you could be sitting next to Russell Simmons in a restaurant. Like it's just that type of environment. But
Uh-huh.
what I love about Chicago is always sort of there's a southern element to the
That's
people
true.
here. So even gangbangers be like, yes, ma'am, no man, like on the bus letting you on. It's sort of a southern hospitality, I guess that I would call it, that I really like, and it helps to tame the wild New Yorker, and so I've enjoyed that. But since being here in Chicago, I've become the founder of the Soulful Chicago Book Fair, which is started in 2016. It's a author centric environment where we have a different genre for every block. There's a block for fiction writers, there's a block for nonfiction writers, there's a block for children's writers. And then we have like a Grammy level stage where composers come and perform, Eric Roberson, Navasha Dea. Then we got the community that can come out and take the small stage and do their poetry, what have you. So on the literary scene, and if it's Black and it's literary, Asadah's involved. If it's Chicago, big time. And we've done everything from taking our authors into the metaverse on to bringing in Black authors from other countries like Japan. So there's that. And I came to Chicago in 2014, though, not really on a mission to do this. And this is what we'll be talking about today. But I came around the time that Adrian Peterson, who is a football player, had whooped his son. And as a result, people were coming to me like, yo, Asadah, you need to say something about this issue. Because in 2009, I wrote a book called Beating Black Kids. And it's a book about not hitting our children to discipline them, right? And so I was on a radio show. A friend of mine was interviewing me about the book. And the same day, I mean, I might not have been in Chicago a week, and I was getting a call, and the call said, "Hi, I'm Judy from CNN." And I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And so she was like, "We would like to have you on the Don Lemon show." to talk about this Adrian Peterson, whatever. I said, okay, cool. When? She was like, tonight. Can we send you a car? So my life with Beating Black Kids in Chicago has always been on a rocket ride, from book discussions to I've been not only flown out to LA to do parenting workshops. People call me a parenting strategist. I'm not really called a child advocate, but more so a parenting strategist. And so I've done parenting conferences all around. My book is on the curricula of at least one or two classes at Old Dominion University. So every time the semester starts, I can see those books selling and going to Virginia. And so I'm just happy to have made an impact on students, on parents, on especially Virginia. They treat me good. They done flown me out to Old Dominion at least 10 times. But I didn't have a lifelong goal to do this. It's just something that, like, I'm a child of God. I just listen to what I'm told to do. And there's a story behind how I made the book, but nonetheless, it's out there and it's building families. That's what's important to me.
Well, good. Congratulations. And you have other books as well, right?
Yeah, I actually have a book called Bitcoin for Black People. You can see it a little bit in the background over there, right there,
Mm-hmm.
over there. Bitcoin for Black People. I'm big into cryptocurrency. Somebody called me the Harriet Tubman of crypto, so I'm like, yep, I'm with it. I'll take it. So I have that book, and then I have two books coming out this coming August at the book fair. One is an anthology. I don't fit the description, but I collected women who do, and it's called He's Out: Tales of Marriage After Prison. And so those sisters are going to be telling their stories in that. But then I have my own book. I had a stroke and a seizure this past August,
Mm.
and as a result, and I did heal myself tremendously by just working on my diet, the food in my diet, minerals, vitamins, what have you. And so the book is called I Had to Choose to Feel Better. And it's going to help people understand what I did with that choice and the things I had to choose in order to just live a better life. So, yeah, I'll have 4 books floating out my sleeve in a minute. And yeah, writing has been just a tool. It's a way to get my message out to the world, so that it doesn't stop with just having to see me. With the book, the message can travel worldwide.
All right now. Now,
Hmm.
also, you haven't mentioned yet that you also a broadcaster. Now, I don't know if you noticed it or not on my webpage. Miss Latif Naima is also an affiliate of mine. So
Okay.
her link is on the page where you click on it, it'll take you to her website, and you get a chance to see all of the affiliates that work with her, woman to woman, lady to lady. I mean, she got so many, like 20 different shows that she does.
Sure.
So, are you one of her broadcast hosts?
I am.
Okay, let's talk
Yay.
about that a
So
little bit.
basically, Tuesday mornings, I do a show called Gathering of the Griots, and it's under the Female Solution, which is what the brother's talking about in terms of Naima Latif having this program where every day of the week a different woman talks about a different subject matter. And so mine is Tuesday mornings from 7 to 8 a.m. Gathering of the Griots. And what it does is it interviews authors that are a part of the book fair that will be featured at the August 9th book fair. And I mean, sometimes when you get the backstories to these books, it's just amazing. One lady who was registering last night got a letter from an author about me and the book fair. This dude passed away, I think, this past June, but the letter still exists telling her to find me and to get to me so that she can carry on the legacy of his book at the book fair. So just some of the stuff, the interview comes out with all types of stories that are sort of the backdrop of why they wrote the book, what it's about, and all of the triumphs and the obstacles that may have happened along the way. Because it does take courage to write a book. It could be a very vulnerable space because people always got something to say, or they're not supporting you as much as you would like. But I love with the book fair, what I can create is sort of a family of people who are in the literary realm, and that we don't need Barnes and Nobles to do whatever, or whatever other entities that do mainstream books, that doesn't mark our success. We mark our success. And so that's my thing, is to make sure that I create experiences for Black writers that are just unique and make it so that they can put themselves on the map regardless of anybody else.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a lot. You do a lot. You know,
Yeah.
and once
So
again, I got to thank you for coming on the show, filling in for Naima. She was filling in for somebody else, and then now you filling in for her. So
that's
hey,
how it goes.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to say this publicly. We're going to get you back so you can get a scheduled show of your own. So now you can
Okay.
call her to fill in for you. Then.
I don't call people to fill in for me. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Okay. Well,
I do what I say, and that's it.
that's what's up. That's absolutely
Mhm.
what's up.
Mhm.
So now, one of the books that you spoke about, beating Black kids, because
Yeah.
I'm jumping in this with both feet.
Okay.
You know, that's your first book, your
Yep.
second book,
That's my first book. Came out in 2009.
2009.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about that book a little bit so that I can understand what I'm opposing other than just the title.
Yeah, no doubt. So, Beating Black Kids was written because in 2009 I actually had a stroke. In 2009, that's my first stroke, and my daughter was 5 at the time, around that age, and because I was home and wasn't up and about, she ripped up some money. We had somebody watching over us, and so she ripped up some money, and the person who was watching over us said, "You need to give her a spanking." And I just thought that was so odd, because it was like, what? I don't do nothing but love my daughter. Like, I just would not even imagine creating harm to her body, particularly harm coming from somebody who she needs to trust, which is her mama. And when people hit you, your husband hit a wife or wife hit a husband, you don't generally trust them. That's not what comes as a byproduct of that. So I just thought it was interesting, because this was also a sister who was head wrap, namaste, or yoga, all that. What? You can't be talking about peace on one hand and then talk about hitting our children on the other. It doesn't work like that. I was speaking with what's his name? Al Sharpton in his church in New York one day. And so I was speaking, representing Beating Black Kids. But I was like, we're not going to sit here talking about police brutality and then we're going to go home and be brutal with our kids. We're not going to do that. So, the book I saw after I saw that we were looking at spanking my daughter, and I was like, I'm not doing that. I told my daughter, I said, I think mommy's going to have to write a book. And I told my daughter the title and how I was going to have to go get a tape recorder to get it. And so at this time, I had recouped, came out the hospital, and I returned to work. I was working in a after school program. I was an administrator there. And I spoke at lunchtime to some of the other coworkers. One was a chef, one was a maintenance man, one was a fellow administrative person. And I told them, I think I'm going to write a book. And so they said, oh, what you going to write? And when I said Beating Black Kids, man, they went on for 3 hours just purging, just talking about, they were laughing, but they were talking about, I got hit with a spatula. Oh, I had to get wet to get beat. Oh, I had my mother covered my face with a pillow. Like it was just all these stories about different ways that we beat our children. And people want to differentiate between beat and spank and all of that, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just different gradients of pain. That is what it is to the body. And at the time, it doesn't make the young person feel any kind of empowered. It don't make them feel like they even want to think about the solution. It just is painful, and it makes them resentful, confused, hurt, a lot of things. And if they're doing something that's going to garner you hitting them, then you need to look a little deeper about why they were doing what they were doing, because it's always a reason behind the why they were doing something in the first place. But I have something that I say, raise your skills and not your hands to discipline our children. And so you do have to look, and you got to kind of assess why they do it, what happened. Because for me, yeah, I got two. My mother was great. We played games and all of that. She gave me 2 spankings and a slap in my whole life. But those spankings and the slap were all for sexual things. And one was, I was in the first grade. But instead of getting a whooping, which made me not do the thing again, they never found the molester. I would have been like, why is this young girl preoccupied with sexual issues? But they missed it. The whipping made it that you missed it. You didn't ask about the why it happened. So you give a beating to stop the action. But sometimes people do that to not confront what the real issues are, because sometimes the parents are the problem in the situation. So there are a variety of layers to this topic, but it all started with the incident I mentioned. And I wrote that book once I heard those people just coming out their mouth with all these stories, and I interviewed people. So the book has interviews of people in the book, from daycare workers to hairdressers to students, college students, just a nice variety of people who had a perspective on it and are in the book telling it.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask the question. Since, I mean, you speak of beating and spanking synonymously, and
Yeah.
I understood that they were two different things.
Mhm.
But what is your method of preferred disciplinary action? Let me ask that question.
Sure. I think it's first important to talk about discipline as a word. It actually comes from the Latin root disciplina, and disciplina means to teach. If we want to deal with the etymology of discipline, like the disciples, it all comes from the same etymology, right? So Jesus wasn't beating the doggone disciples. Like, he was teaching them. Same thing with discipline. You want to teach young people. And so the method that one should use is always communication. I do a workshop with both parents, social workers, and I have them illustrate their earliest moments of violence, and then we put them all together like in a film reel, right? So once we do that and we look at the heinous things that people have experienced with regards to getting introduced to violence by their own families, I then have them do the similar exercise of what should have happened. And always, 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 the result is always, not even just from me, is people talking about, my mother should have just asked me the difference, or she should have talked to me about it. It's always communication. And so communicating is sort of like my daughter. Let's say one day she brought home some grades that I didn't care for. And so it was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Because I've always been a good parent. I mean, I've always been a good student. A's were just what I did, period, all the way to college. So I said, but if you don't want to get the A's, let's just make a list of who you could live with, because living with me is not going to work for you. So let's make a list. You could live with grandma. Your daddy is a truck driver. You could live in that truck. I think they got bunk bed. We just made a list of all the places she could live. And she assessed that I don't want to live in none of those places. I want to live here. And I said, well, if you are going to choose to live here, then you need to make a different decision about how you're going to handle school. And so my daughter was 7 at that time,
I was going to
7 or
ask you
8.
how old she was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was like 7 or 8, right?
Hmm.
So, but I'm talking to her with some reasoning. I'm having a conversation so she can make her own decisions. I'm not telling her, this is what I say, you better get this. No, let's sort this out, baby. You can make your own decision about how you want to do this. And I'm going to support whatever it is that you say. And I
But
think that, go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, come on with it.
You know, but at the age of 7 and 8, do you think that they have the mental capacity to be able to understand what you were presenting to her? Is like, you got to choose your mama, your daddy, your grandpappy, the daddy on the truck, or whatever, whatever. Do you think they really truly understood, have the mental capacity to understand that you're talking about that as an alternative to not being here because you have messed up, effed up, you're doing something that ain't making me happy?
I love that question so much. I love it. God, I love it. So, God, you're awesome. So, the reason I love that question is because if we're talking about my daughter, then the answer is emphatically yes.
Okay.
She did have the mental capacity. Most children at that age, unfortunately, have experienced so much hitting and so much yelling and so much production of cortisol in their systems. Cortisol is what the body produces when it's toxic to the body, but it's what gets produced when a person hits and yells at a child, right? Now, there's a part of the brain called the regulatory part of the brain that makes decisions in times of adversity, fight or flight, and all of that. When a child's body has so much cortisol built up in their bodies, the regulatory equipment doesn't develop. It doesn't develop fully. And so what we're looking at in our community is a ton of people with no regulatory equipment. You could tell by looking at the community, from urinating in the elevators to throwing trash out the window, from all the things we do that are sort of self-sabotaging. We don't have good regulatory equipment so that we don't go against the forces that break us down because we don't have the regulatory equipment to get there. An example of my daughter with regulatory equipment, she was talking to a teacher, and the teacher, she was telling the teacher about her summer coming up and how she was going to be at her grandma's house and how she was going to have a microwave in her room and cable in her room. And the teacher said, "Oh, you're spoiled." And my 7-year-old said, "I'm not spoiled. I'm highly loved. There's a difference." She don't have to be nasty, but she was able to reason with the woman and just give her a blanket, "I'm not spoiled. I'm highly loved." Yes, baby girl. I told her, "Go ahead, baby girl, get them." But that's regulatory equipment. It's the ability to deduce, discern, give feedback. And I often say we don't teach our children how to, we teach our children how to take authority, but we don't teach them how to be authorities. And so they don't have that skill set. They don't even know how to negotiate, because like the truck and the thing we had with the grades, that's negotiation skills. So when you get to a certain age as an adult, you can negotiate a salary. You have the skill of thinking over the issue and then saying what your expression is for that particular thing. So the answer is all day, yes, that they do have the mental capacity, but like we prolong adolescence more than anybody in the universe. Like we shut our kids down. Children should be seen and not heard. Like anything that allows for them to say their piece and have a contribution to a discussion, we shut it down, baby. We don't want to hear it. Take your butt in the room, get out of here. And all of these things that are debasing and they're humiliating. And those are not emotions that our children should feel, specifically in their home with the people that they're supposed to trust. And so, yep, I've taught children too, and always give them the opportunity to give their say in any situation.
Well, now, of course, I don't agree with children being in grown folks' conversations at all, because if you enlighten a young person or a child to a degree where they feel like they can tell you a piece of their mind and their mind ain't but 2 seconds long, that's inviting trouble, I believe. So I want to, before we go into that even more deeper, I want to ask what percentage of young people that you come across you feel were on the special scale like your daughter?
Oh God, my daughter is in a very, I don't know, she might be like in the 5% to 1%, like, because we don't treat our young people well. I only know I took on the way I rear my daughter from a sister here in Chicago. Her name is Kandase. Hey, what Kandase? But I watched how she raised her children. And so while the 3 and 4-year-old were in the back of the car bickering, she pulled that car to the side and she looked back. She said, "Help me understand what is occurring back here." And you saw that 3 and 4-year-old going, the boy was like, "Well, she said," and she said, "I don't want to hear what she did, anything. I want to hear your contribution to what's going on." And we sat there and I was just amazed at their ability to understand her, number one, but then their ability to communicate what was happening. And then she was able to articulate the why is not going to be done. It didn't have to be soft and cotton candy-ish. That's not how we communicate. You could still give your child a look. We know how to do that. But that my daughter's in a very small percentile because we don't treat young Black children civilly. We
But
don't treat
before you
them.
even
We
got
don't
to
treat
the
them well.
part where you were treating her civilly, what led you to believe that she could comprehend that conversation of the alternatives because she gave bad grades? What led you to believe that she would be able to comprehend that conversation? Because, and the reason why I'm asking that question is
Hmm.
because, here in 2025, we have what they call generational crack babies. Okay, and their parents and their grandparents were all doing street drugs, and the children have developed the inability to have emotions, good comprehension, things of that nature. So, what did you see at the age of 1, 2, 3 to understand that, okay, I ain't got to go with this route, go stand in the corner and she going to really feel like she did something wrong? I can talk to her and let her know your grades are not going to be this way because, what was it at an early
Yeah,
age that you saw? You understand the question, right?
sure. It has a lot to do with who I am, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Who I am and how I'm going to talk to this person, because I did not say you're going to do this if with these grades and this is going to happen, because that's the way we talk to them. Like, it's very condescending, authoritative, and we don't have, it's like we're not having a conversation with them. But because my daughter was raised by a woman that conversed with her even before she could say full words, she used to go with the baby talk. Like, she gestured, and I would go, really? And you've seen that on social media. There's a brother who does that with his son, and he goes, I know, man, and the little baby's going, people underestimate the power of their minds,
Mm-hmm.
period. They're not treating them like they have a good mind. They're treating them in a generalized sort of children should be seen and not heard sort of authoritative way, and they never take the time to develop the excellence or to listen to their ideas. And I see it all too often. Even very intelligent young people, man, the parent just won't pull out the intelligence because they keep vomiting their commands on young people, just like Charlie Brown. There's a reason why the only adult in Charlie Brown goes wah 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 wah. That's the only adult in the whole thing, and that's how she talked, because that's how adults are received, because they're not having conversations with the young person. And in the case that I mentioned with my friend Kadase, and in my own case with my own daughter, you just have the knowledge of the parent that the young person, they come from us, so they're extensions of us. You can talk to them in the womb all the way till they get out, and you're going to know that they understand, because you also teach them what to do when they don't understand. Mommy, what do you mean by that? Or I don't know what that means, explain. Like, so that they give you prompts on explaining more if you have to. And so, but if you are yelling at them and you're just giving them commands, you're not even giving them any idea of what it's like to have a civil conversation with an adult, right? I also don't believe in young folks being in older people's conversations, but I will say this: if two adults are having a conversation, and then you have a young person going, mommy, 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 trying to interrupt the mother, the mother needs to pause, because the adult can understand. The young person has less of an understanding. She needs to pause that communication and find out what the young person needs. What's up, mommy? What you need? Mommy, can I? Because as soon as you give it to them or whatever they're looking for, either you tell them, we'll finish, as soon as I finish this communication, we'll do that, or you just get their questions answered. They are the priority. We don't treat our children like priorities. We treat them like detriments. We treat them like annoyances. And so if we put more love into our communication with young people and more understanding, they will reciprocate. I took teenagers, not lovely gang brothers and sisters. I took them to Africa. And what? You taking brothers and sisters from the street out the country? Yes. Because y'all don't think that they have the civility to do so. I'm going to show them how to go get their passports. Then I'm going to show them what to do, malaria pills if they want or not, or this or that. And then we're going to give them some of the rules of the road of when we get to Africa, what's going to happen. And it was the most life-altering experience with no problems, because those young people were validated and given an opportunity, period. Not even an opportunity to blah, but like, are we giving young people opportunities? Not the ones we think, oh, I'll give you a roof over your head, I'll give you clothes. And that's what you did. That's what you signed up for when you laid down and created them. So stop it. Okay, that
Okay.
comes with the
So
territory.
so basically what I'm hearing
Mm-hmm.
is that you're talking about parents that have a skill set to be able to communicate to their young people in
Sybil.
yeah, that. But what about when you're talking about, once again, I said dysfunctional parents that are, been on crack, laid down with somebody, they don't even know who the daddy is, and now they done made a baby, so they dysfunctional in so many different ways. And you're talking about third, fourth generation of this type of, civilization in the black community, because they, and I'm not, trying to justify it. They dumped that stuff on us, and then we got victimized because of it. But in the interim, they don't feel love themselves. So how are they going to try and, you know, teach a young person love when they don't feel love?
Absolutely. You got that right. I talk about the fiber of society and how we have to actually ask the parents the same questions, not what they're doing to their young people, but what was done to them. That needs to be looked into. What was done to the parent for them to feel the way they feel. And I think that crack babies and the mothers and drugs, and I think that's a generalization, because what I found, even when I taught in the alternative high school system, that there wasn't the demographic of their families. Like their families weren't all drug addicted and XYZ. You had a variety of situations. My girl over here has 6 kids. She trying to get a high school diploma. This brother over here was on house arrest. So you had the crime and all these different things. But the conversation with each, they are human beings. They spiritual beings in them human bodies. And that's how I feel they need to be approached. I don't care what the physical experiences have been. One of my most enlightened friends, oh man, she'll tell you that her mom was a prostitute. Yep. And that her mother tried to abort her. But she's the most enlightened, beautiful soul out here doing really good work for families. And so it doesn't mean that because there were challenges in the family in one generation, that that's going to spill over into the next generation. And if it does spill over, that's where we have to come in and intervene and show some love and show some care, show some confront. When I see them young brothers and sisters on the train and bus, and I see them yelling at them children, I do not turn my face. I go right over to the mother. I put my hand on their shoulder. I like, girl, look at you. You got a tribe over here. You doing your thing. She's like, oh, they get on my nerves. And I say, I wrote a book for us parents that deals with the stuff that we have to handle. And I said, if I gave it to you, would you read it? And they go, yeah, I would read it. Guess what I just did? I took her attention off the young person yelling. I now connected myself to her as a parent. And now I'm giving her my book. We taking a picture. The baby now they smiling. They trying to reach for the book. And the mama's going, stop, don't touch. I said, girl, let him touch it. Hold on. Let me give him another book to touch, and try to give some instruction on ways that you could do this without the problems. One great story. I came home one day. It was a brother from UPS in front of my door, in front of my building. And in the back of the truck, he was getting out the back of the truck. He said, hey, are you that lady that wrote Beating Black Kids? And I said, yeah, what's up, brother? And he said, I'm a better father because of you. He said, you gave me that book and I was just having a baby and I read it. and I never hit my child. Let's go. That's all. It's the work to be civil to people and give them opportunities to see other ways. That's what my book does. It gives people other ways to think and other things to do so that we're not beating Black kids the way we were done and we still on the bottom of the totem pole. Of course, you go out to a violent world, but you were introduced to violence first by your mama. Now that's a problem. You was introduced to violence first by your parents.
Now let me ask you a question.
Hmm.
I got plenty of questions. I can
I
go there
love it.
on.
I got plenty of answers. Let's go.
Yeah. So once a young person has been raised the way that you have described,
Hmm.
what happens when they get into the world, which is cold and cruel? Are they equipped to be able to deal with a cold and cruel world?
Yeah, see, the world is cold and cruel for some people, but it's not for others. I don't live in a cold, cruel world as Asadah, and I'm not in a utopia, but I attract what I am, you see. So I just have a good time and I create good. I mentioned earlier how I never drank, smoked, or got high. And that's a decision I made by watching a mother who
Mm-hmm.
never drank, smoked, and got high. My mother's in her 70s as well. But I was able to watch them and emulate a woman who lived righteously, right? And she wasn't head wrapped and this and that, but she just didn't do the things. The world wasn't cold and cruel that I lived in. And the world that I create for my daughter is not cold and cruel. She's experienced and seen some things that are not her way, but the key is she's able to create her way in the world. She's
Mm-hmm.
able, my daughter's first book came out when she was 7 years old. That was that magic age. I keep telling, but that was her first book. Now she is a professional photographer with her own clients, her own website, and she at work right now, working with kids. She just ended up like her mama, working in a classroom with young people. So that cold, cruel world doesn't really exist for everybody. And we definitely don't go into it with that because the world, I create the world just like anybody create the world. I don't care who take office. They could take office, they could jump up and down, do whatever they want to do. But I'm still over here doing a book fair, writing books about health, eating well, taking kids out the country. Like there's so much we can do in our own sphere to create a good environment that they won't feel the heat of a cold, cruel world.
But it
Or
exists. The
it
cold,
exists,
cruel
but who
world
cares?
exists.
Yeah, it
And it
exists, but it's a
targets us
simulation.
because of our skin color.
Oh, but it's
Yeah.
what if it existed and it was the law, we wouldn't have had a Marcus Garvey. We wouldn't have had a Queen and Zinga. We wouldn't have had a Nat Turner. We wouldn't like these people were able to shift the reality based on their intentions. And they took their intentions and created a new reality that was different than Marcus Garvey. There were no cell phones, there were no emails, but he got brothers to go back to Africa in boats. Like what? Like how you did that? How you get the word out about that, right? But it didn't matter what was going on in the time frame. Now we're not even talking about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Day. We're talking about the time of their parents. So it was even worse in terms of what they had to go up against, lynching and what have you. But regardless of that, they made decisions to change the environment. We going back to Africa. We going to Liberia. Okay, what else? All these different things. That's what we have to do now is look at what you want and not what you don't want. I think we spend a lot of time looking at what we don't want. And so that's why we get it. We say, you got to have a plan B. That's why you never get plan A because you ain't look at it. You busy over here planning B. And so you never get the ideal scene. And my thing is to have our young people, have our families, have our community go for plan A, create plan A and manifest it. Don't have doubts about getting it. But I think a lot of times we let the doubt stop us. We let the barriers and other people saying things. I could care less about anything anybody else says because I got a race to uplift. And uplifting that race has very little to do with them. I'm not trying to get Black people to stop to go against racism. I laugh at racism. I'd be like, what you said? Boy, get out of here. But it's very tumultuous and it's layered when you're trying to get us to be good to ourselves. Black people don't hurt outside people. They just hurt other Black people. And so that's a battle that most people are not willing to take on, but I am willing to take it on. We just have to stop being violent with each other. They violent in the street, baby, because they getting violence at home. And when you can't go home to somebody who's just going to give you a hug, give you solace, give you trust, look you in the eye and say that they love you, when you can't come home to that, but you've got to come home to yelling and hitting and resentment, it makes for a lot of different things. I had to tell one brother who was hitting his little 4-year-old daughter on a train in New York. I saw him hit her and pull her to close to her and close her legs or whatever he was trying to do. But I walked over to him. I stood next to him. I'm not going to say what I got to say for everybody to hear, right? But I told him, brother, what you're showing her is that men that love her can hit her. I just heard that from a comedian the other day, said she was taught by her mother that a man doesn't love you if he doesn't hit you. Conversely, for a woman, if I was a brother, I might not want a Black woman, because Black women kicked my butt my whole life. Why would I want one of those? They yell, they scream, they hit. And so you're not setting a good example of what a beautiful, civil woman can be. And so we need to look at what we're creating, not what was done to us. We understand that. But what are we perpetuating and what are we creating for ourselves as blocking our blessings, blocking them? And we can do a better job.
You gonna have to come back because I ain't even getting ready to touch on everything that I really want to say.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you a testimony though, and I think it's hilarious. Now that I'm 60-something years old.
Okay.
I was working a convention in New Orleans, Louisiana, and the topic of the discussion by the speaker was the definition of child abuse. So they were describing all of the things that, and some of the side effects of child abuse and things of that nature. So I was like, So at the end of the day, I didn't have a cell phone back then. We had pagers, So I got on the phone and I called my mother. I say, according to the definition of child abuse, you child abused me.
Say it.
So her response at that particular time was, so?
I know. Right.
She said, so? I think
Yeah.
you turned out okay, So I'm like, oh, is that the way you feel about it?
Yeah.
So I was like, have a nice day, because I don't even want to finish this conversation with you no more.
And that's what I want to attack, brother, that right there, because here you are, you're taking this back, but it's a thing because, again, we're not talking about what you've done, but what was done to you. And that response is all too, well, you got beaten, you turned out fine. First of all, when people say to me, well, I got beaten, I turned out fine, or I turned out okay, I say, is that what you're aiming for? Like, you aiming for just turning out fine or like mediocre? That's what you're doing? That's number one. But number two, I made an acronym for FINE, that FINE, and that FINE, turning out fine, is failing indefinitely, never emerging. Period.
Say that again.
Failing? Sure, fine. Failing
indefinitely.
Never emerging.
Never emergency. Okay.
And
not
never
emergency,
emerging.
but
Never emerging.
Got you. Not showing up in the emergency room.
Hey, right. We ain't doing that. But never emerging, because with our people, no matter the socioeconomic background, we have this experience of beating our offspring. And if we can't see that comes from a colonial slavery experience, we're not looking good enough. Because I'm going to tell you, where you can find our original feelings of parenting is in the art. We were a people that, whether you did cave drawings or had statues, when you look at the pharaoh, the child just standing next to the pharaoh, next to their leg with their pharaoh gear on. Or if you in Benin or in Western Africa, you see the mother with the baby in her arms, suckling at her breast, and the daddy sitting right next to her. Or like you just see all these manifestations of caring parenting, or you see a statue of the woman with the baby tied on her back. You do not see art of anybody hitting young people with sticks. And I say on YouTube, when you go to Beating Black Kids, there's a video, and I say, people say spare the rod, spoil the child. And my thing is, first of all, who said that? Christ ain't say that. Christian. Solomon said that. And I don't know him or his mother, so we're going to say that. But spare the rod, spoil the child. What rod are you talking about? You talking about the shepherd's rod? Because the shepherd didn't beat the sheep with the rod. He guided them and kept them in line. So, yeah, your rod is the same. Create a guidance, not violence and hitting them with an object. That's something that got misconstrued in colonialism and slavery. And so we just got to be clear on that. And if we take care of ourselves and look at really caring for each other, have the intention to create peace, harmony, wellness, love, endearment, validation, all of those things. See if we can make a list of 101 things that we could do or say good to our children versus all the negative things we say to them. And then let's put that in motion.
We got a lot of work to do,
Got a lot of work to do. Yeah.
All right. Well, look, we ain't too far from the end of the show. We got about 9 minutes left.
Yep.
I want to go back and revisit. First of all, they can find you at your website, beatingblackkids.com.
Absolutely.
It should be don'tbeatyourblackkids.com. But
then y'all wouldn't read it. If I put don't beat your kids, they wouldn't read. They would go, oh, I don't believe in that. So I had to put beating black kids so they can go, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
And then go get the book.
Okay, so they can go to your website. They can find you. How much is the book?
The book is only $12.95.
$12.95. So they can find the book, something affordable,
Yep.
Cheaper than going to McDonald's.
I mean, it's just something that's going to change lives. And I wrote it so that I got in, got on, got out. You could fit it in your back pocket. That is the size of the book. You could fit it in your purse. And I give it away because it's a guide that we need to use. People say there's no guide for parenting. Well, there should have been a manual. My book is a manual. That's the bottom line. When people say, I'm not trying to tell you how to parent your child. I am trying to tell you how to parent your child. Absolutely. No questions asked.
I got it. Yeah. So now, one of the biggest events you got coming up in the next couple of months is the 2-block long, 6-block long.
Yeah, it's
book
big,
fair.
baby. Soulful Chicago Book Fair is 4 blocks long.
Talk about it.
So
when is
Soulful
it?
Chicago Book Fair is at August 9th. And it is going to be powerhouse. I'm not even going to tell you who's going to perform yet, but it's going to be powerhouse. We just paid for the insurance today and all that good stuff. But it's a 4-block long sort of genre specific event where 1 block is for fiction writers, 1 block is for nonfiction writers, 1 block is for children's writers. And you can come and bring the family and enjoy us in the literary arts. We got our own stories to tell. That's why I don't care what people got to say about our stories, what they want to tell. Come to the book fair and then you'll see all of the grandeur that we create about our own lives. And so that's going to be August 9th, right on 61st Street between Cottage and King. So, it's nothing I could say other than it's going to be a beautiful experience. It's absolutely free. It sure is. It's free to come and bring your money to buy books. That's all you want to do for your grandchildren, for your children.
Have food there?
I always have great food there. So it's usually food trucks there. Okay. And everything from Mexican cuisine to vegan cuisine. I've seen cupcakes out there. I've seen a nice variety of foods for people to enjoy. You can't do nothing without having some food for my people now. Come on. Gotta have it.
And it's from sun up to sundown?
Yeah, we open at 10. I open the event with a float. And on that float are elders that we are tributing that are in the literary industry. And we got drummers up there, elders up there, and we have them come in through the event. And then we ask for their permission to begin. And we begin sharply at 10 o'clock and it ends at 8 p.m.
Okay. Give that date again.
August 9th. That's on 61st Street between Cottage and King, starting at 10 a.m., ending at 8 p.m. So we there all day rocking and rolling on the Black literary world of the Soulful Chicago Book Fair.
I know that's right.
Yeah.
So, if they want to be a vendor, they reach out to you. They can reach you through your Beating Black Kids website as well to be a vendor.
Not to be a vendor of that because today we dealt specifically with the book. But if you're listening and watching, you can go to soulfulchicagobookfair.com. And that's SOULFULCHICAGO not soul food. Don't do that. We ain't doing that. So some people be saying that. I'll be like, what? Boy, stop it. SoulfulChicagoBookFair.com. And on that, if you're an author, you're going to see a tab that says author submission. And go ahead and register. And we vet everybody that's coming through, because we're not going to have no risque books or some books with some naked people in the front. We're not doing any of that.
Well, I guess I won't be coming.
See, look at you. Too bad for you. That's right. You got to watch out for people like you. So,
you got to watch out for me. Pray for me. That's what you got to do.
Funny.
Pray for me.
Yeah,
now,
we're gonna pray, baby.
Now, do you have a phone number you want to attach, or you want them to go directly to either one of the sites? Give that second site again, just in case.
Yeah, SoulfulChicagoBookFair.com is where you can get everything. Even if you wanted to give me a call, you can get it from the website. I've had people call me from that. I won't give it here only because, oh Lord, don't be calling me. We're talking about, hey girl, you cute. Let me talk. No, I don't want to do that. But anyway, SoulfulChicagoBookFair.com.
They may want to drop their kids off at your house so you won't beat them. Okay?
That's right.
You know,
that's right.
So
we might make allowances for that.
Look, there you go. You know, look, you can drop I'm gonna drop mine off because they need a beating. You know,
hey, drop mine off, baby, and I'm gonna show them what love feels like. That's what we're gonna do. Yep.
Absolutely. So. But definitely, I need to get you back because there's more than one perspective, even to the angle in which you're speaking from. Mm-hmm. You know, I beat my kids. I ain't have no problem with it. You know, my kids acted up. You know, look, they got beat down. Then I go hug them and kiss them, want some ice cream, baby. You know, do like the old people do.
That's confusing. They hurting and beat up.
Yeah, that's right. They supposed to be hurting.
It's confusing.
Then they stop stealing, because if they keep on stealing, they go into jail.
But that's what you think. They
stop stealing. They ain't in jail. I can tell you that. Okay.
I know that's right.
For stealing, they might be in jail for something else, but they ain't in jail for stealing. But we'll talk about it. You finna start us up again. Stop.
It's okay. You know,
we're gonna talk about it off the air. I know, off the air. I just had to get my viewpoint in there on the slide. So, so we got about 2 or 3 minutes. So I always have 2 questions that I like to ask my guests when they come on the show. And since it's your first time to the show, the first question is, will you come back and see me again?
Sure. We had a ball.
Good.
Rocking and rolling. Mm-hmm.
All right. And the second question is, what would you like to leave with the people today before you leave?
I just want to say, do well, be your best self. Whatever your ideal scene is, your ideal you, don't think about it, just be about it. Be it, then do what that thing does, and then have what that thing has. So be, do, have. I'm a Scientologist. That's one of our concepts. And I just want you to be great. Do whatever it is that'll make your impact in the world improve yourself and others. That's the main thing.
Well, once again, I want to thank you for coming in on short notice.
Yes.
Being a part of the show. I wish you much success with your event. As we get closer, we're going to have you come on and talk about it some more so people can find it and have an opportunity to support what you're doing. Your broadcast again, when do they come on your broadcast?
Yep, Tuesday mornings, guys. This morning, Tuesday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And it's called Gathering of the Griots. We are gathering our Black writers, baby, then letting us tell our own stories from our own perspective for our own benefit. That's what Gathering of the Griots is about.
Absolutely. So thank you. I'm going to ask you to stay right there while I end the show.
Sounds good.
All right. I want to invite you guys to join me tomorrow, each and every Wednesday on Street News Now. Every Wednesday, we do a broadcast where we talk about news commentaries, what's going on in the world. So I want to have you guys come see me on tomorrow, 12 noon. You don't want to miss it, Central Standard Time. Each and every Saturday at 12 noon, please come and join me right here on the same network where I give you what's on my mind from the desk of Dr. Ron every Saturday at 12 noon Central Standard Time. I want to thank all those that have made donations and contributions to the show. Thank you so very much. Keep up the good work. If you want to make a contribution, This is all the ways that you can do it. So please, 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 definitely keep up the good work. Don't forget to support all of my advertisers. Check them out. You know, for those that do drink and for those that don't drink, please support. You can buy a gift. While you're here, please subscribe, like, and share. Tell somebody about the show. Click on it, like it, share it with somebody. It might be some information that will do somebody some good. You know, keep them from being child abused like I was. So please spread the information out. All right. And that being said, I just want you to know I love you. I appreciate you. You be strong, be encouraged.